Welcome to Leaderonomics Show. My name's Evelyn Tay. Robert Kiyosaki is the founder of Rich Dad Company and among the world's top authors with books such as Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Also, he's known for his controversial thoughts, and Kiyosaki believes that leaders should have a fiery temperament to become stronger and more consistent. Also, he mentions 5 areas such as performance, discipline, morality, legality, and ethics. But how does a leader become a success in these 5 areas? Join us in today's interview as we speak to Robert Kiyosaki about his journey from being a C student to the military squad and now as the world's most sought-after financial advisor. Only on the Leaderonomics Show.
Welcome to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm here with Robert Kiyosaki, author, entrepreneur, and founder of the Rich Dad Company. Robert, great to have you here with us.
An honor, Roshan. I'm proud of what you're doing.
Well, it's been an interesting journey, and you know, speaking of journeys, I think it's very interesting to see the starting of your journey was really in the military, where you were in a military school and you ended up actually working in the or going to war actually
Right.
Early on in your life.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that and how that happened and how that transition happened to entrepreneurship. And I know you have a book also called the 8 Lessons of Military Leadership, right?
Just off the press.
Just off the press, right? So we were the lucky ones to get wind of this.
And that's a picture of my friend and I said a lot of people died that day. It was a rough day.
So tell us a bit about that time of your life and some of the lessons that you've learned that kind of inspired this book.
Well, one reason I went to military school is because I grew up in Hawaii. I'm 4th generation Japanese American. And I was a surfer. And I didn't like school. So I'm surfing all the time. I'm smart enough that I could get through all the tests without studying. But I knew I was in trouble because being a surfer can only get you so far.
You did go pro surfing.
Yeah, no, that's not good. But anyway, it was, so I knew I needed discipline. And the best way to get that was to apply to those 5 federal schools in America: Naval Academy, Military Academy, Coast Guard, Air Force, and then there's a little dinky school called Kings Point. And Kings Point is the highest paid graduates in the world.
Okay.
And they train us to sail oil tankers and ships all over the world. So it's a military school, so I went there. And when I graduated in 1969, the Vietnam War was still on. And I didn't have to go to war, but I kind of felt a calling, So then I joined the U.S. Marine Corps and then went to fly helicopters, and I was soon in Vietnam. And it was one of the best decisions of my life. I learned a lot about war, I learned about friends, and I learned about me.
Okay.
Well, what made me move away from the military was a thing called ethics and moral and legal. Legal, ethical, moral. And I don't have problem killing people. I'm trained to do that. But one day I was going to shoot a little Vietnamese boy. And legally I could have shot him, but morally and ethically I couldn't. And the moment I couldn't kill the boy, my Marine career was over.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't kill anymore. And so I think that's a lesson in leadership, especially today, is that leadership is not just doing what's popular, but sometimes standing up for others, And today, as you know, the world is corrupt. I've never seen a more corrupt world. You have your problems here in Malaysia, United States. We have a very corrupt government. I was just in South Africa. That Zuma government is corrupt as it is. So it seems like it's okay to be corrupt today. That's not leadership. Do you know what I mean? Just because you can steal a few bucks because I'm a leader and I can get a few dollars here, that's corruption.
Yeah.
And we have a corruption of leadership today.
Is that what you articulate in your book? I mean, what are these 8 lessons of leadership that you get from your
I don't really write about that stuff. I just write about the difference between going to college and going to military school.
Okay.
And in military school, I learned to trust my friends. In college, it's screw you, stab them in the back. So in American school system, they teach you to stab your friends in the back so you can get a better grade, get the promotion, and make more money. And I think that's the problem, is that the ethical and moral and legal of the human spirit is basically corrupted in our academic system.
So tell us a bit about after military school, and you ended up wanting to be an entrepreneur. Was there a desire, or you just wanted to make money, or what transitioned you to who you are today?
It's not about being an entrepreneur, it's about being free.
Okay.
So I just travel the world, I do what I want to do, I make as much money as I want to make, and nobody tells me what to do. So I do business all over the world.
But how did it start? I mean, I'm sure the early days must have been challenging.
Well, because I would never make it in the corporate world. You know, I have friends with MBAs and they work in the corporate world, you know, but oh, hi, I'm going to get to the top, you know. That's not the way the Marine Corps did it, you know.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps was performance. You performed. But I came out of Vietnam in 73. I got out of the military in 74. I got into the corporate world in Hawaii, and it was...
And so you just didn't want that?
Well, that's called, I don't know what that's called, but I just don't like doing it.
Okay.
So anyway, that's how I'm an entrepreneur. Nobody, you know, people try and kiss my butt. I don't have to kiss theirs.
So tell us, I mean, you know, I think another book you recently wrote was Why A Students Work for C Students and B for the Government.
Yeah.
Was that part of the insight that you got from
Like I said, I really didn't like school as a surfer. And all the A students, you know, they all climbed the corporate ladder. They got jobs with the government. They're all government employees, you know, my classmates from Hawaii. So I am this director of the water department. I'm this department of the school department. I'm going. So they're all A students, but I'm a C student. And I make a million times more money than they do. And the B students, they're all government employees. I think that's kind of funny.
Well, you know, another thing we were just briefly discussing before we shot this was about experience, and how experience that you've had over the last couple of years makes you stronger, makes you smarter, makes you better. Tell us a bit about what that means, and give us some examples in your life of how you picked up different insights from different learning experiences.
Well, it was my poor dad. He was a great teacher. PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate.
Okay, but it's not permanent head damage. Huh?
Yeah, good man, really good man. So one day he says, let me teach you the secret of life. So in the backyard, we had a little hibachi, or, you know, like this. And he took a piece of steel, and he put the piece of steel on there, and he made it red hot, and then he dropped it in the water. Because that's a Japanese sword. He says, that's what makes the Japanese sword so strong. So you pull it out, you pound on it, put it back in the fire, throw it in the water. And in metal terms, it's called tempering. He says, if you're going to be a great leader, you have to be tempered. And the reason many people are not great leaders is because they really don't have that tempering. They're not really that strong on the inside. Like this guy, Barack Obama, a fellow Hawaiian, you know, nice guy, but he's not a great leader. You know, people like him, but they don't respect him. And this guy, Donald Trump, my buddy, he's a comedian.
Possible president too, right?
Yeah, if he's the next president, I'll regret to say that. Trump's a great guy. I hope he becomes president, and I support him. But at this time in the world, we need a great leader. Like this decade or this century, we've had Nelson Mandela, fantastic leader. But right after him, it denigrated. Now we have this guy Zuma, who Mandela appointed, and Zuma is the biggest crook South Africa has ever seen. You know, and then now we have Aung San Suu Kyi in Myanmar. She's obviously She's been through the fire.
Yep.
You know, house arrest for 20 years and all this. I don't know how she's going to turn out as a leader, but the world loves her right now. Nobel Prize in 1971. That's what leadership is. It's not about, oh, you know, my father was president,
Right.
George, and now I'm George the next, and next is
And
going to
my
be
brother
Jeb, you know what I mean? Or I'm Hillary, you know. Hillary's tough. I like Hillary. Hillary is a tough person. I don't know, she'd be a great president, but she's a tough person.
Yep. So experience does matter. I mean, in terms of going through that grill or that fire, I guess, to some extent. What were some moments in your life what were some fiery moments in your life? I mean,
As an entrepreneur, I found out one of my partners was stealing from me. I don't know, she and her husband were stealing from me for about 5 years. And I don't know how you can go to work every day, sit down, and she said, hi. And she's like, you know, I don't know how people can do that. But when I found she was doing it, there was a whole string of them. Like a lot of her friends, steal. All smart people, doctors, lawyers, accountants, but they're dishonest on the inside. And that's why what you're doing is important for the youth of the world, is that today we need leaders who are legal, ethical, and moral. You know, you have to do the right thing. So I took her to court. You know, caught her hand in the till, took her to court.
that helped to define you in some way, I guess, right?
No, it cost me $12 million.
Wow.
That was a lot of money. But then the next trial was even more. It was $22 million. Because it's like corruption's like a cancer.
It
You know, I know
spreads.
Malaysia's got its serious of corruption.
Yeah.
It is so inside there.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
Yeah.
This is called the African salute.
Yep, yep.
You know, all over the world. This guy Bernanke and Greenspan, our Federal Reserve Chairman, they were all being paid by their friends. It's terrible.
Robert, we're going to just take a quick break right now, and we'll be right back here on the Leaderonomics Show, here with Robert Kiyosaki. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm with Robert Kiyosaki, and Robert, we were talking about your first book, or one of the books you just wrote on the military, 8 military secrets, but you just have a latest book that came out, the second chance, right?
Now, what I said to you was that our leaders are stealing, and they're called the Fed Chairman Greenspan and Fed Chairman Bernanke. Those are serious charges.
Yeah, those are, and you're kind of accusing them of corruption?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, that's why leadership is not about writing popular books either.
Okay.
You know, this book here will get me in a lot of trouble. It's already getting me in a lot of trouble. Because on these charts, I have pictures here because the average person can't read anyway, you know.
Yep. Well,
So these are
Probably
government charts,
Yep.
but this shows you how our Fed chairman, Greenspan and Bernanke, rip us off by printing money. And this shows here how they rip the average American off, because Americans are working for money, they're trying to save money, but the value of the US dollar is going down.
Yep. And
So
this really triggered, I mean, it's from 1971 when we pulled
Yes.
off the gold standard and so
when
on.
Nixon took us off the gold
Yep.
standard in '71 when
Yep.
I was out here
Yep.
fighting for my country. So that's why leadership is not just about business and all this. So I wrote this book here knowing I'm going to get my butt in trouble. So in here are just pictures and all this, and I have the courage to say, look at this. This is what we're doing to America. Our leaders are ripping off the American people and the world, and they get paid billions for it. You know, when the market crashed in 2007, none of those guys went to jail. None. In fact, they got billions in bonuses. So there's three kinds of people ripping us off today. Of obviously politicians, but our bankers, our Wall Street bankers are ripping us off. Corporations are ripping us off, and our school systems are ripping us off. They charge more money for school today in America, and grades keep going down. That's corruption.
But it's the same in many. But I mean, what's our reaction? I mean, what can we do, in light of all these things that are happening? Because it's been happening it's not a recent phenomenon. It's something that's been happening for years and years and years, right?
The average person doesn't know it. That's why they're still sending their kids to school. Why would you go to school when you don't learn anything about money? That's corrupt. Why would you teach your kid to save money when they're printing money? Listen to this. In 1970, when I was just coming out of school, if I put $1 million in the bank in 1970, I got $150,000 interest a year for that money. That's how much $1 million was worth back then. Today, I put $1 million in the bank, I might get $10,000 for it.
Yeah.
The value of the dollar keeps going down, and parents keep saying to the kids, save money.
Yep.
That is really stupid.
Yep.
Well, they go, what else can I do? I said, well, think of something new. So they still send their kids to school. They still tell them save money, and they still tell them to put it in the stock market when it's corrupt. You see, and that's what I wrote this book about. I get in trouble for it. People say, oh, don't say anything about it. And that's the problem. People say, don't talk about it, man, don't talk about it. Don't talk about how much money they're putting in their pockets. It takes leadership to stand up and say, look, we've got to stop this.
Yep, let's change something about this, right? And so I guess that's your way of stopping the rot, right? To write about it, to expose it to.
I'm not stopping it. There's always crooks. Just don't be one of them.
What else does this book tell us?
Well, I explain how I don't pay taxes.
Okay.
I love George Bush, the last president. He gave me the biggest tax break ever. But the average person, their taxes are going up. For the rich, their taxes are going down. To me, that's corruption. But I'm not complaining.
Okay, so maybe we'll we're talking about the topic of corruption, but one thing you said many years ago.
That's not the topic of corruption. It's the willingness to not put up with it. I'm trying to say your school system, my school system, the world school system is corrupt.
Yep.
It doesn't mean education is not important. It means the system is corrupt. It's not keeping up with times.
Right.
And when you say to a child, save money, and they're printing money, and you say, well, don't say anything. I want them to save money, then you're corrupt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that is what I talk about.
Yeah.
You have got to be willing to stand up for whatever you know is important to you. I stand up for this second chances because I don't like our government ripping people off.
No, that's true. Well, Robert, that's been a very insightful segment. We're going to take a quick break right now. We'll be right back here with the last segment here with Robert Kiyosaki on the Leaderonomics Show. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show. I'm here with Robert Kiyosaki, and we're having this engaging conversation about
corruption,
and ethics, and a whole bunch of
leadership
other
standing
things.
up to that.
Yes, leaders need to stand up to what's right, and not just what's right, but also what's morally right. We're going to go into our Thinkonomics segment, and this is quick. You've got 30 seconds to answer each of these questions. Not much thinking time, just answer them randomly. And we've selected, our producer has picked up...
This is why I hate school.
Well,
in school it's about the answer.
Right.
Okay.
Not so much about the process.
No. What good is an answer,
All right, we'll do this anyway because it's fun, and we like to kind of put you through a mill a little bit. But here you go. First question: if you are going to be trapped in a TV show for a month, which show would you choose and why?
Jerry Springer show.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because it's nuts.
Okay.
It's the best entertainment there is.
All right.
I get to hang out. Guys who know Jerry Springer is out here.
Yeah.
It's my hero.
Okay.
If I had a new job, it'd be Jerry Springer.
Yeah. Oh, you can, right?
I love to. It'd be kind of funny.
We'll set up a similar type show here. I'm pretty sure it'll be popular. Okay, here's question number 2. Which is more genuine, giving your time or giving your money?
Well, that's kind of a trick question because the reason I give money is because I don't have the time to give.
Yep.
But the most important thing is to give.
Yep.
So a lot of times people say to me, I don't have any money, so I give my time. I'm going, well, that's good, like this. But the reason I give my money is because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Okay?
So I mean, the concept is about giving, right? And I think you've mentioned this many times before. The great leaders give, right? The more you give, the more you receive, right?
Some great leaders give, other great leaders
takes. Well, then they're not great, right? Okay, we'll go into question 3. Describe what a perfect world would look, feel, and be like.
I don't know, being at home with my wife. That would be nice.
That's your perfect world.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what my heart is for. It's my sweetheart.
Yeah. And
where's over here?
And instead you're on a 6-week...
Yeah, I'm gone for 6 weeks. Lots of pretty women, but only one woman in my heart, my wife.
That's fantastic. So speaking of, which dead person would you most want to meet?
Probably Steve Jobs.
You've never met him?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
But he's always been my hero long before he became Steve Jobs. I mean, I don't know why, there's branding, but I've always loved the Apple brand.
Yep, yep.
There was something about it.
Do you still love it now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, Steve changed the world completely.
Yeah, he did. Yep. What's your worst, and this is the last question, what's your worst memory about high school?
I can't think of a good one. That's the problem.
Oh, so you served there.
Lunch was pretty good.
But
High school was miserable. I hated it.
Okay.
I was, there was always the good kids like Dwayne and Cheryl, they're like this. Then there were the hoodlums.
Yep.
And I was kind of on the outside. We were the surfers.
Okay.
And the surfers, there was only about 12 of us. So we just kind of came to school, and the A student kids would make fun of us, and the hoodlums would beat us up. So we just go surfing.
So, if speaking of kind of memories, right? I mean, if you look back at your journey, your leadership journey, or your journey to where you are today, what were some of the obstacles and challenges and issues and failures that you faced, and how you overcame them, and some of the insights you got from that?
One of the best lessons I learned that life is those obstacles. They look at Aung San Suu Kyi, right?
Yeah, Aung San Suu Kyi. Yeah.
She went to Oxford and all that, and she was locked up for 20 years. No, she didn't plan on that. So I think I'll go to Oxford, get locked up for 20 years. You know what I mean? So life is always coming at you, but the question is, how do you handle it? One of the best things I ever learned, I was in India about 3 years ago, and I was talking to one of the head, I think he's Hindu, and I asked him to explain Dharma to me. What the heck is Dharma? Because I heard a lot of, he says, Dharma is doing the right thing, even though you don't want to do it. So I said, well, that sounds exciting. Why would I do that? He says, because to have joy in your life is a process of Dharma. See, if you will do the right thing, even if it's hard or miserable and all this, there's joy at the end of it. So if you don't have joy at the end of your life, it's because you didn't do the right thing here. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So today I have all the money I want. It's been horrible. It's been a horrible life. Friends cheating me, being sued, losing money and all this. But I continually did the right thing. So today I have a most beautiful wife, great life, have my health, happiness and all that. But the joy is a result of Dharma. Aung San Suu Kyi, she is in joy right now. After all, since 91 or something, they won again.
Yeah.
That's Dharma, and that's joy. And I think that's what we strive for in life.
Fantastic. I have a question. If somebody is young, just graduated or just, came out, early in their life, early in their career, and they said, I want to be like Robert Kiyosaki, I want to be successful, I want to be, I just want to be like you. What kind of advice would you give that young person?
Go see a therapist.
Other than that.
No, the best advice I give to people is, in your heart, you know who your heroes are. Like I said, years and years ago, Steve Jobs is younger than me. Yeah. When I first saw him, I said, I want to be like him, My other friend wants to be like, what's his name, the basketball player? Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I said, you can't do that, kid, because you're white. But we all know who our heroes are. And I think there's two things. Is you want to be like your heroes, but also be a hero to somebody else.
Yep, that's great. And my final question is, what advice or wisdom, or nuggets of wisdom would you impart to our listeners, if you could give one or two pieces of advice to everyone?
Well, right now I would get my book, Second Chance. Not that I'm trying to sell a book, but the financial system of the world is corrupt and it's breaking down rapidly. And if you're still going to school, the old dog, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and invest in the stock market, you're going to get wiped out. And if so, the whole financial system is crumbling today. So that's why please be aware of what is going on in the big picture, so you know what's going on here at home.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Robert. That has been truly an inspired session we had with you. We've been speaking to Robert Kiyosaki here on the Leaderonomics Show.